Happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. So, welcome aboard. Tonight is Thursday, so that means we are looking at a role-playing game, because I love to do RPGs on Thursdays, and I've got a special treat. We are actually going to crack open the big slipcase, the collector's slipcase of Delta Green from Arc Dream Publishing. So that's going to come up in just a little bit. Tonight is Thursday, August 15th, 2019. This is episode 345 of The Daily Dope. This is a live stream, so if this is the first time you've actually caught the show, be it live or after the fact, do want to point out this is very, very casual. Usually share some tabletop gaming news. Maybe I do an unboxing on a board game or do a review of a board game, or maybe we take a look at some RPGs and I do reviews of those as well. So like I said, Thursday nights is RPGs. Huge fan of role-playing games. So because this is a live stream, do want to point out chat is available. It is not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the stranger commenters at bay, but I do pay attention to the chat. So if you just want to say howdy, or maybe you've got a question, or maybe there's something about Delta Green you want to get a closer look at, by all means, please chime in and I will respond. Of course, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you check out some of the videos on the Gaming Gang channel and you dig those, please subscribe. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that little bell, because not only will that inform you when a new video has been uploaded, because I do some standalone videos, it will also notify you when the stream goes live within about 5 minutes or so. And of course, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com. That is the home website. There's loads and loads of stuff going on at thegaminggang.com that does not make it onto the Daily Dope, such as written reviews. Yes, I got Sammy's got a review that I'm going to post either tonight or tomorrow. Depends on how much time I've got. And once again, still got the con crud. Haven't shaken the con crud. It's still in my sinuses, still in my chest. Ugh. So, you know what? Real quickly here, I am just going to make sure that we are streaming, because YouTube has been like changing up my my streams lately. It's been changing up my key. So, sometimes I start the show and it's not actually streaming, but I do see we are streaming, so we are in good shape. Cool deal. So, hopefully we'll get some folks popping into chat. Anyway, as I mentioned, I'd like to share some tabletop gaming news. I did not have news yesterday because I did my how to play and review of the War of the Worlds, the USA East Coast edition from Danvers Games, and just the how to play and review ran over an hour. So I can just imagine how long that show would have been if I had news. Now, tonight's show's probably going to be a pretty big show as well, because we're going to be taking a look at two books. We're going to be paging through both the Agent's Handbook as well as the Handler's Guide for Delta Green. But I don't like to go more than one show without doing news. I like to share the tabletop gaming news. So I've got a bit today. Let's jump on into it. I know there are some folks out there who do not like the tabletop gaming news. That's okay. If you are one of those folks and you're watching after the fact, look in the show notes. I will actually have timestamps. You can skip past the tabletop gaming news. If you are watching live, well, you're coming along for the ride. First off, Manor Games has a cooperative fantasy dice game, which kind of caught my eye. It's on the near horizon, and I've got the dope on, dun dun dun, Set a Watch. The kingdom is in grave danger. Powerful enemies are conspiring to resurrect the vile and powerful unhallowed that your party has just slain. Now you, the mighty adventurers of the land, must visit these summoning locations and defeat the hordes of creatures behind this evil plot. It falls to 4 mighty adventurers, each of whom has a unique set of skills to band together once more to vanquish this evil before the unhallowed consume the world in darkness. Oh no! Damn you, unhallowed! In Set a Watch, a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players, you must clear out 9 locations to stop the acolytes from breaking the seals holding back the evil unhallowed. Every round, you will visit a new location and pick an adventurer to rest and take camp actions. The rest of the party will take watch and battle a line of monsters trying to make their way into camp using your dice and unique character abilities. Manipulating the creature line is essential to solving each round's combat puzzle. It is a battle to stay alive and keep the campfire burning. Use your wits and skill to fight for the light, or all will perish in the darkness. Set a Watch is for 1 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, plays in around 60 minutes, will carry an MSRP of $30 when it arrives next week. Yes, August 20th. Pretty cool. I am not overly familiar with Manor Games. I know they've got a couple of titles. There was a game that they did a Kickstarter for that I remember sharing news about. And off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of the game, but it did have a setting where it was kind of like an Old West setting. I think it's The Few and the Chosen, for some strange reason I want to say. That's the title. And it's kind of like a weird West setting where the oceans disappeared, so water is like the most precious thing on Earth. Kind of interesting. So, Set a Watch is another title from Manor Games. This could be pretty interesting. Moving right along. It is Thursday. I like talking about role-playing games. Hey, look at this. We got some folks popping into chat. There we go. So we got Dan from No Enemies here is popping in. Bones has arrived. Good to see both of you here for the show. I was getting a little worried. I was like, maybe nobody's showing up to check out Delta Green tonight. What's the dealio? Anywho, as I was saying, I like to look at role-playing games on Thursdays. I like to share role-playing game news. And there is a new role-playing game system that's now available from my friends over at Modiphius Entertainment. And here's the dope on Black Void. In the days when Babylon was the greatest city on Earth, mankind lived in placid ignorance of the grandeur, the vastness and horror of the cosmos. Following cataclysmic events on Earth, the fragile veil between reality and the void, I was going to say there's a fragile veil for me between reality and unreality. Anyway, following cataclysmic events on Earth, the fragile veil between reality and the void was shattered and the truth of existence revealed. As mankind cried for salvation, they were torn from their homeworld by void torrents, and the surviving peoples of Earth were scattered among the stars. Countless were lost, and mankind seemed all but perished. Over the decades, the survivors, stragglers, and ragged remnants of mankind's tribes struggled for their lives across countless uncaring worlds. However, a few managed to go beyond mere subsistence and travel the void currents to congregate in fabled Lin, epicenter of the cosmos. Black Void takes place in a distant past, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, maybe? Which is both familiar and outlandish in its dark and exotic ambience. As descendants of the survivors of Earth, characters can adopt many roles, such as serving as emissaries, defending the enclaves and last remnants of human civilization, traveling the void currents as explorers, seeking riches and glory across the cosmos, venturing to find Earth, the long-lost cradle of humanity. Maybe they're flying along in the Battlestar Galactica to do that. seeking influence and claiming a new home for mankind, taking their rightful places as leaders of mankind. They could be diving into the intrigues of Lien, or perhaps building an empire in the dark depths of the city's underworld. Discovering the true essence of existence, finding enlightenment beyond the veil of reality in a void filled with mindless abominations. Black Void uses an original rule set. This is not a 2D20 set. The entire system is based on a few basic principles, making the rules easy to grasp and implement, which in the end gives more time for the fun bit, namely, playing the game. The game mechanics include actions being resolved by a single die roll, using a 12-sided die to determine their success or failure. Actions have a difficulty rating, which is the value the dice roll must equal or exceed for the action to be successful. Rolls are modified by adding trait, ability, and conditional modifiers, with the key feature that actions can be associated with differing traits or skills, enabling players to adopt their individual style depending on circumstances or personal preference. There are some key features as well. Two main factors in the game are Enlightenment and Wasta. Each factor significantly impacts the game, as Enlightenment grants characters the ability to traverse the void, as well as extraordinary powers and abilities, while Washta confers tangible and vital sway, authority, and social influence with other sentient species. Aspects that are essential as mankind's and the character's very existence is threatened. You can score the 424-page hardcover core book right now from Modiphius Entertainment for $48.99, or grab it in PDF from DriveThruRPG for $20. There is also a first campaign available as well. So, Kabuki Kid has popped in. Good to see Kabuki Kid. So, got a good chat starting up. All right, cool deal. Bones was curious if Set of Watch is going to get a retail release. I believe it is going to, because I got the sell sheet information from a distributor. So I do believe it should be hitting retail stores. Now, if your friendly local game store is going to carry Set a Watch or not, of course, that's going to be up to them. On to the next news piece. Bundle of Holding has a money-saving offer on Darkfast Dungeons, and I've got the dope. Adventura! This Darkfast Dungeons bundle presents the print-and-play dungeon crawl board game, Darkfast Dungeons. It's compatible with Save the Day, the superhero role-playing game, and tons of full-color print and cut miniature figures by Canadian designer-artist David Oakham. Darkfast Dungeons provides a fun and varied dungeon crawl experience in a couple of hours. Because you need no game master or preparation, Darkfast Dungeons is kid-friendly and also great for experienced players with limited time. A typical game will last 2 to 3 hours, and it also works great solo. With its hundreds of printable full-color miniature figures, the Darkfast Dungeons line is an affordable alternative to those big dungeon crawler boxes full of plastic miniatures. Games like Dungeon Quest, Clank, Descent, and Warhammer Quest. Clank? Since when does Clank have plastic miniatures? It doesn't have plastic miniatures. Huh. And you can store all your minis in a 3-ring binder. The Orcamarts Games YouTube channel has actual play videos and crafting tips as well. This all-new collection presents PDFs of all the rulebooks and adventures for both Darkfast Dungeons and its 4-color companion, Save the Day, along with more than 24 PDFs of paper miniatures for an unbeatable bargain price. For just $9.95, you will get all 15 titles in the starter collection, which has a retail value of $55. It includes the complete Darkfast Dungeons basic rulebook, along with 5 Darkfast paper mini sets, New Heroes, Dungeon Monsters sets 1 and 2, and Mice and Rats sets 1 and 2. Both Save the Day rulebooks, the basic rules and the advanced rulebook, plus 4 sets of Heroes and Villains paper minis. There are 3 Eldritch Mythos paper mini sets as well: Monsters, Innsmouth, and the ever-handy Loathsome Fisherman. And if you pay more than the threshold price of $24.57, You'll level up and get the entire bonus collection with 14 more titles worth an additional $71. There are 5 Darkfast Dungeon Rules expansions, supplements, and adventures, Realm of Shades, Steam and Sword, Dragons and Dwarf Mecha, the Ghost Woods, and the Kingdom of Richard. 2 Rogues Gallery supplements for Save the Day, Vile Villains 1 and 2, plus all 4 Vile Villains paper mini sets. The Northerly Save the Day adventure Team Canada. Blame Canada, right? 2 Darkfast Dungeons prop sets of papercraft props, walls, and doorways, Forgotten Tombs, and Lost Treasures. This special offer does run until August 27th, and 10% of your payment, after payment gateway fees, goes to this offer's designated charity, Ocean Conservancy. That is a new charity as far as Bundle of Holding goes, as far as I know. It's usually like Doctors Without Borders and things like that, so that's very cool. A little different charity that you can help support by purchasing the bundle. I do not know anything about Darkfast Dungeons. Because it's a print-on-demand or print-and-play kind of title, I don't normally really get into those, simply because it's like, I'm not going to pay an arm and a leg for ink. Plus, I gotta point out, if I did review like print and play stuff, I would get inundated with print and play stuff, and I just can't. Anyway, so Bones is asking, is No Enemies Dan? Yes, that's why I try to say Dan from No Enemies here. All right, my final news piece. The latest release for Adventures in Middle-earth is available in PDF from my pals at Cubicle 7 Entertainment. I've got the dope on Erebor Adventures. With the death of Smaug, I always said Smog, but in the movies they call him Smaug. Wilderland has been spared the terror of Dragonfire and the plans of the Dark Lord to bring devastation and savage swords upon the free folks of the North has been foiled. Take that. But the enemy knows that in times of peace, there is a subtler way to reach the heart of dwarves and men. Treachery. Visit the kingdom of Bard the Dragon Slayer, see the wondrous toy market of Dale, and reconstructed Lake Town. Gain access to the halls of the king under the mountain, as you side with Balin, son of Fundin, in his search to foil conspiracy threatening to bring war to the north. Erebor contains 6 ready-to-play adventures you can play separately or as connected parts of a conspiracy that will unfold over the course of several years. The adventures take place in the areas described in the Lonely Mountain Region Guide supplement, a useful companion to this volume. Erebor contains the information and adventures previously released as the Laughter of Dragons for the One Ring role-playing game, fully converted to be compatible with Adventures in Middle-earth and the OGL rules. 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. I can say that, Cubicle 7 can't. You can grab the 160-page PDF of Erebor Adventures right now at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. Sweet! So we should see this in hardcover towards the end of the year. That's usually how the PDF releases do work from my pals over at Cubicle 7 Entertainment. And as far as I know, I will be seeing the physical copy of the new edition of the One Ring when that arrives. Fingers crossed on that one, so I'm looking forward to that. That should be pretty cool. So, do want to mention, I was talking about DriveThruRPG, there is a Lovecraft Mythos sale that is going on right now over at DriveThruRPG. It's to celebrate the upcoming birthday of H.P. Lovecraft, which is on the 20th. So there is a sale going on. It's a lot of Mythos-related game items, a lot of RPGs that are Lovecraftian in theme. You can save big on them right now, and that runs through August 22nd. And of course, the Gaming Gang and thus the Daily Dope are affiliates of the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go to, say, DriveThruRPG, please stop by thegaminggang.com, click on one of our banners, and that way, if you do make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. A little bitty portion. But they all add up. Really helps keep the website around. In fact, most months, those dimes and quarters all add up and actually pay for the hosting for thegaminggang.com. And I say it all the time. I don't have cheapo hosting. I can't have 1 million unique visitors come by that website every year on like GoDaddy $5 a month hosting. Just ain't happening, Dewey. So there we have it. Nefarious Coel has popped in. Good to see you, Nefarious. So Nefarious is also mentioning there's lots of Delta Green that's on sale over at Drive-Thru RPG as well. Interestingly enough, speaking of that, I did notice the handlers, I should say the Agent's Handbook is on sale, but the Handler's Guide is not. So that's kind of strange. Kind of surprised that Arc Dream doesn't have both of those on sale. Speaking of Arc Dream, we're going to be taking a look at the slipcase for Delta Green in just a couple of moments. Do want to point out what is happening on the show tomorrow and into next week. So on tomorrow's show, I will be unboxing and taking a first look at Tribes: Dawn of Humanity from Cosmos Games. This is one of their Gen Con releases. This will be the third one that I'm going to do an unboxing and first look at. So that will be on tomorrow's show. Then Monday, I'm finally going to be reviewing Aeon's End. Yes, from Indie Boards and Cards. This is, I like to refer to this as kind of a deck crafting game as opposed to like a deck building game. So stay tuned. I will have my review of that on Monday. Tuesday, we are going to unbox and take a first look at Anomaly from Starling Games. This is a 1 versus many. This is for 2 to 4 players, whereas one player is the anomaly and the other players are students on like a scientific space station who are trying to figure out what is this thing and how can they stop it. That'll be on Tuesday's show. Wargame Wednesday will bring us the review of The Devils to Pay, the first day at Gettysburg from Tiny Battle Publishing, designed by my good pal Herman Lutman. So stay tuned for that. Next Thursday, we're going to take a quick peek through Lonely Mountain Region Guide. We were just talking about this for Adventures in Middle-earth. This is the latest hardcover release for Adventures in Middle-earth from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. And then on Friday's show, I will review Roll for Adventure from Cosmos Games. So Dan from No Enemies is like, yeah, Herman, yeah! Herman's a great guy. Very, very good friend of mine. One of my favorite people in the industry. And I got a lot of favorite people in the industry, I must admit. There are a lot of people in the tabletop gaming hobby that are very, very cool. Dan from No Enemies here seems like he's a pretty decent guy. I think he probably drinks heavily, but, you know, that's okay. We won't hold that against him. Just kidding. So, that's what's cooking on the Daily Dope tomorrow as well as through next week. Do want to also mention there are 2 contests going on right now for the Gaming Gang. One is for YouTube subscribers, and that is a prize pack of PDFs. It's going to celebrate the 2nd edition of Pathfinder, which Paizo has been kind enough to actually be sharing on social media. I am amazed. They've been sharing my reviews of both the core book as well as the bestiary, because they never share anything that I do. Not that I really do much for Paizo anyway, but that's changing. We're starting to actually get cool stuff from Paizo to share. But I have got a prize pack I'm going to give away in PDF, the core rulebook, the bestiary, and the Fall of Plaguestone, which is a self-contained adventure, all for 2nd edition Pathfinder, for every 65 subscribers beyond 1,600. Right now, we're about 20 subscribers away from the first giveaway, which will take place on September 6th. I almost said August 6th. September 6th. It runs through September 5th. Then, For Twitter followers, if I can hit 5,100 Twitter followers, I'm about 200 or so away. By September 8th, I will actually be giving away a copy of the Evertree, the wooden Evertree for Everdell from Starling Games, as well as the Pearlbrook expansion. That's right. So, if you like Everdell, it's pretty simple. Just have to be a follower on Twitter. I do have a tweet that's out there, and the tweet is out there, and you just have to retweet it with what you love about Everdell, and you're in the running as long as I hit 5,100 subscribers. So, Nefarious Coel asked, did you ever do the giveaway from last month? Yes, I did. The Madman won the Pathfinder Adventure card game core set, as well as the promo little pack, and the Crimson Curse of the Crimson Throne adventure path. So that got sent out. So that is on its way to the Madman, who now I know his real name. So yes, so that was announced and that was sent out. So hopefully we'll see the Madman pop in one of these days and say, hey, got it. So, all right. Anyway, before I jump into our first look at Delta Green, do want to mention that, of course, the Gaming Gang and thus the Daily Dope, pretty much not-for-profit endeavors. So if you do like the show, if you like the site, if you like the channel, please consider making a small donation to Lil Bub's Big Fund and the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Lil Bub's Big Fund does provide grant monies to organizations throughout the United States that cares for special needs animals. These animals are awaiting adoption. So these are not kill shelters and things like that. These are actual organizations that are trying to find forever homes for these special needs animals. So always like to point that out. Love Lil Bub. Lil Bub's doing pretty well. I just saw a little news update about her health, and it seems like that infection she had is finally wiped out, so that's good. And just a really sweet little cat. So pretty cool, pretty cool. So Nefarious Coel saying, yeah, he was hoping that we would hit 1,800 subscribers. Yes, because then I would have done 2 giveaways for the Pathfinder Adventure card game. But we just squeaked over the 1,600, so I don't know what to tell you. All right, so I know people are tuning in because they want to check out the Delta Green slipcase, the special collector's slipcase that we're going to be taking a peek at in just a moment. The Delta Green role-playing game is from Arc Dream Publishing. This collector's slipcase includes the Agent's Handbook, which is written by Dennis Detweiler, Christopher Gunning, Shane Ivey, Greg Stolz, and Hans Christian Vordich. Taking a wild guess on that. With artwork provided by Simeon Cogswell, Dennis Detweiler, and Kevin Ross. There's also the Handler's Guide, which is written by Dennis Detweiler, Adam Scott Glancy, Kenneth Haidt, good old Ken Haidt, Shane Ivey, and Greg Stolz, with artwork provided by Simeon Cogswell, Dennis Detweiler, Shane Ivey, and Kevin Ross. You can score both these books in hardcover in the spooky slipcase for $99, and that does include the PDFs of the 2 core books. You can also snag the PDFs alone. The Agent's Handbook, as I mentioned, is on sale right now for $15.99 on Drive-Thru RPG. It's normally $19.99. And the Handler's Guide, strangely enough, is $29.99. It's not on sale at Drive-Thru RPG. So, I don't know. So Bone says, yeah, Shane would love Pathfinder. Well, you're in the running for the Pathfinder PDFs, which I thought the core book and I thought the bestiary, whatever we want to call it, I thought that was really well done too. All right, so let's switch on over to the other camera because here it is. Here's the big slipcase. I am going to take off the shrink wrap here. And we've got a little, is this glued on? Yep, it is. There we go. Just kind of like that weird kind of like sticky plastic. So, it's talking about Delta Green. This is the apocalypse. Born of the U.S. government's 1928 raid on the degenerate coastal town of Innsmouth, Massachusetts, the covert agency known as Delta Green opposes the forces of darkness with honor but without glory. Delta Green agents fight to save humanity from unnatural horrors, often at a shattering personal cost. And of course, in Delta Green, the players are those agents. So there are a few different like Lovecraftian mythos sort of role-playing games that that do have kind of a governmental aspect to them. One I point out, which is no longer available, was The Laundry that Cubicle 7 Entertainment was doing, and that was pretty interesting. But I didn't care for like the humorous aspect of it. The books themselves are actually really well done by Charles Stross. And there's a bit of this, kind of bureaucratic red tape and things like that. It just didn't translate that great, in my opinion, to a role-playing game. But then again, in my opinion, I don't know. Sometimes I don't think comedy translates all that great if it's strictly a comedic role-playing game. So here we've got the Agent's Handbook. So this is kind of the player's guide to Delta Green. So Delta Green, if memory serves me correctly, I believe came out in 1997. It was originally from Pagan Publishing, which still is sort of around. And I remember Pagan Publishing did some fabulous stuff for Call of Cthulhu. Really, really good stuff. And Xcelera X1 is in the house. Good to see you, X1. Welcome to chat. Welcome to the show. So, I had the original Delta Green, which was kind of a supplement from Chaosium. It was for Call of Cthulhu. Maybe it wasn't specifically from Chaosium, but it was kind of a Cthulhu Now supplement. And I do recall some pretty cool adventures. In fact, there was one adventure. It wasn't in the core book. It was in a supplement where a space shuttle was returning and it brought back a color. And it was a very, very good adventure. Now, this new edition of Delta Green actually came out just a couple of years ago. There was a very, very successful Kickstarter to bring this back to the masses. The Agent's Handbook was the first book that came out. And it was just recently, I think within the last year or so, that the Handler's Guide arrived as well. So let's dig on in. I'm going to grab a quick sip here. And of course, Delta Green has won numerous Annie Awards. It is a really, really well-received award-winning system. So, not to be confused with the Fall of Delta Green, which is from Pelgrane Press. That is a Ken Hite book. Another Annie Award winner. Just really, really nicely done. So, if I remember correctly, I think Sammy did a review of it for me. It should be up on the site. Now, I'm not positive. I'm like, wait a second, did we review it? Because I got to peek at it, but I didn't get to really read through the whole thing. So here we go. All right, so right away I can tell you there's some language here. Just the premise of this game, this is not going to be for small kids. Because I see there's an F-bomb right here in this redacted memo or letter, whatever that is. So we've got the world of Delta Green. What is Delta Green? Ask any two Delta Green agents, what is Delta Green? And you'll get two very different answers. It is an enigma. Its mission requires concealing itself from the public, from the rest of the U.S. government, and even, sometimes, from its own agents. If you are looking for a system that you could kind of mesh the X-Files into like the Cthulhu mythos, this is a perfect opportunity to do something like that. So, as far as I understand, and I'm sure we'll get into this as well as we're paging through here, it's not necessarily based on the completely based on the basic role playing system from Chaosium, but it is a percentile based system with a lot of changes to bring it to the modern day, and a lot of aspects that are going to be a bit different than, say, Call of Cthulhu. So we've got what makes an agent, agent creation. So we've got determining their stats, calculating derived attributes, professional skills, defining bonds, and adding the final details. Oh man! So we've got an example of the character sheet, which does look similar to the Call of Cthulhu character sheets. So we got the detailed stats. So it looks like we've got strength, intelligence, con, pow, charisma. So everything that we've seen before in Call of Cthulhu. So we're talking about different professions here. So we got federal agents, computer scientists or engineers, physicians, scientists, special operator. Got some additional professions here as well. You can build new professions. Optional bonus skill point packages. So we've got blue collar worker, liberal arts degree, an MBA, photographer. So pretty cool. It's talking about some additional packages for skill points and various skills that you can use. Now we get a description of the various different skills. You'll notice there's not tons and tons of skills, which is fine, because one thing that I started to see, and they did change this in the 7th edition of Call of Cthulhu, it was just starting to get to, there was such a glut of skills, and it was kind of like, do we need to really start drilling so far down into the various different skills? So I have been running Call of Cthulhu since 1981 when it came out. So I am a huge fan of the Lovecraft mythos, or as my friend Dominic McDowell over at Cubicle 7 would say, mythos. I believe that's how they like to pronounce it across the pond, the Cthulhu mythos. So talking about different bonds. So what bonds the characters together in the group? Extreme violence, yes. Things man was not meant to know. And now we get into the game. I kind of dig the, I shouldn't say kind of, I do dig the kind of modern style where we're kind of seeing it's like, you know, different case notes. Things like that are kind of being used as the graphics throughout. It's talking about using skills, resolving a test without dice. If you don't have a skill, if your agent has 0 in a skill, he or she can't even attempt it. It requires specialized training or education that your agent lacks. Using stats, success and failure, opposed tests. One thing I don't see, and maybe I can page back here, look at the character sheet. So, just like previous editions of Call of Cthulhu, it's showing your skills, and you'll have like a default percentile for some skills that, you know, you have an opportunity, like accounting, 10%. Because most people have, you know, a bit of a background in math. First aid, 10%. We're not seeing where it's breaking it down to, okay, well, this is difficult, this is extremely difficult, where you've got all these different numbers in the skills, where you're, you know, having this or quartering that, which is one of the things that I was not a big fan of in the new edition of Call of Cthulhu. I just preferred it, like, you know, if it was going to be more difficult, you know, subtract 10 from their die roll, or I should say add 10 to their die roll because you're rolling under. You're trying to roll under in percentile. So I just thought it was just adding a lot more math that most people didn't really want in the game anyway. So I still think the new edition of Call of Cthulhu is really, really well done. But I could have done without having to sit there and do 50% of skills and 25% of skills, things like that. So we're getting into combat with attack rolls and defense rolls. Get some optional rules as well. One thing I'm going to take a stab in the dark is that Delta Green shares the same kind of lethality, if not maybe even more. No, in fact, right here we got lethality as Call of Cthulhu. So unlike many role-playing games, such as say Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, as you get experience, as your character gets better, you don't gain more hit points. Very rarely are you going to get more hit points. And if you get more hit points, it's usually like maybe 1. So you don't have a lot of meat points that can be used up. Anyway, okay, so we've got falling, armor-piercing weapons, poison, and disease. Now we move into sanity, which is a huge aspect of any Lovecraftian game, because sanity plays such a huge role in the stories. Now, I am not going to go back and forth and, make a big production about, well, mental illness has to be presented, respectfully in that. I think that's obvious. It goes without saying. And of course, in the Lovecraft stories, which were originally published in the 1920s and early to mid 1930s, sanity and insanity is not necessarily treated as we would like to see today. There are a lot of people who have big issues with H.P. Lovecraft. Personally, his racism, his misogyny. One thing I point out is as he got older, he seemed to have expanded his horizons quite a bit. Now, that does not let him off the hook. But got to point out, Delta Green's not necessarily based on Lovecraft stories like Call of Cthulhu is. So, permanent insanity, resisting insanity. I have to also point out that in role-playing games, especially, horror games, sanity is kind of tricky. Sanity is kind of tricky to pull off, especially when somebody goes like temporarily insane. So hopefully there's some rules in here, or maybe it'll be in the handler's guide, some points to talk about how to incorporate it in your game respectfully. So home. So we've got Emily Sleeps. So this is kind of talking about, looks like scenes, vignettes. So it's possible that Delta Green is played along the lines of kind of like scenes, like a lot of role-playing games are these days, where you kind of go from scene to scene in the adventure or in the campaign. So you got equipment and vehicles. Yeah, requisitions. Yeah, you've got expense accounts, and you have to requisition stuff out. Getting firepower, spending your own money. Optional home pursuit, raising illicit cash. Squandering illicit cash. There we go. Crafting it yourself. Yeah, go out and pick up a copy of The Poor Man's James Bond. I don't know if that's going over people's heads out there. It's probably right up there with subscribing to Soldier of Fortune magazine. So we got some charts. Oh, so it's kind of, so it talks about expenses as like not necessarily how much cash-wise it costs, but how easy it is to probably requisition this stuff out. So yeah, demolitions, body armor, vehicles. A lot of good gear. Lighting and vision. All right, then we have federal agencies. Now, there is another source book. In fact, it uses the same artwork that provides a lot of different agencies to use in the game. Dan from No Enemies here has got to call it a night. Yeah, you were here a little later than usual. Usually Dan rocks out about 7:30 Central. Always good to see you, Dan. Have a great night. Completely forgot. I should have sent you a video with what's cooking for next week. So, because I know Dan likes to include that on his No Enemies Here show on Saturdays. I don't know if you can squeeze it in. I will shoot a quick video for you after the show tonight and upload it. If you use it, that's great. If not, it's okay. All right. So anyway, as I was saying, there is a source book that recently came out from Arc Dream that has a lot of different organizations in it. And maybe what we'll do, because I got my hands on a few different supplements as well as the slipcase. Maybe on a show or maybe on a standalone episode, I'll show off some of those. So, yeah, okay, so Dan says, yeah, send the video. Okay, Dan, I will. I'll get it out to you tonight. Once again, thanks for coming by and hanging out. So we've got Joint Terrorism Task Forces. There's some pretty cool art there. The DEA. ICE. Yeah, you could actually dig right into the news, the latest news, and really kind of put a twist on things that are going on right in newspapers and that. So we got Defense, the DOD, the Army. Yeah, I figure that would be pretty obvious. The Air Force. Oh, that's pretty wild. That's pretty cool. It's like that's a cockpit of a helicopter of some sort. The Navy and the Marine Corps. That's giving us some suggested professions for some of these agencies too, so that's pretty cool. Special Ops. All right, so then we've got intelligence and diplomacy, different clearances. Other intel agencies as well. We've got the CIA. You're gonna see the FBI. State Department. Public Safety. The CDC. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Have characters who are from the CDC, the EPA. Then we start getting into some of the appendices. Tradecraft. Human assets. Safe houses, communication. Then we get into a glossary. Cool. And we get into recommended media. Let's see, is Charles Strauss in here? No, they don't have. I'm kind of surprised that they don't have the laundry books. Huh, okay. And we got a copy of the character sheet at the end. There we go. I figured we would. Nice. And all told, we're at 194 pages. So that is the Agent's Handbook, essentially the Player's Guide. So the Player's Handbook. So now let's jump into the Handler's Guide, which is a much bigger book. And I will point out that, of course, this is for the game masters out there. So there could be some spoilers. So I'm going to take a stab that maybe we'll have some adventures in here as well. So let's see what we've got cooking. So let's see. Looks like we've got a lot of background. So that's pretty cool. So looks like we may have, oh wow, over 100 pages. So it's going to start off telling us all about the world of Delta Green and running the game. Introducing new agents. Less is more. Agents new to Delta Green are told nothing beyond what is absolutely necessary. Even the most essential information is given only after it is confirmed they have seen something unnatural. There you go. Cool. Got a little bit of an example of play. Then we get into the past. This is going to talk all about the genesis of Delta Green and past operations is my guess. I am a big fan of background, world building. Huge fan of it. So we've got loads and loads of stuff going on here. We just saw stuff going on during World War II. Our darkest hour. Looks like that was in the 40s. Yep, so we've got kind of a timeline going through. In the field, the Majestic campaign took place at the end of World War II. Uh-oh, Roswell. Cold War. I would take a stab that you probably could just jump on in and kind of run games in any of these periods as well. I don't know if there's going to be specific information in this handler's guide. So for an example, like running games in the 60s, running games in the 70s, things like that, or in the 40s. But at least we're getting a lot of background here. Some of the major operations, it looks like, for Delta Green. You have to say, the graphic layout is very nice. Definitely kind of catches the eye. Sometimes games that have like a modern motif tend to go a little overboard with their presentation, with like just way too many images, way too many, like, like supposed to be like smartphone screens or tablet screens, iPhone screens, stuff like that. That's not the case here. All right, so got all of this stuff. Yeah, well over 100 pages of the history of Delta Green. Talking about the Iraq War. So it's all the secret history of what's actually been going on around behind the scenes. It's really the Illuminati. The Bavarian Illuminati. All right, so now we're getting into the 2010s, the teens. Wow. Lurkers and lone wolves. Today, Delta Green, whether the program or the outlaws, does not face the well-organized cults and conspiracies that threatened humanity in earlier decades. Majestic, the Fate, and the Cult of Transcendence, all seemingly invincible in the 1990s, were crippled by internal power struggles. Aha. No more secrets. Profit and loss. Okay. All right, so we had about 130 pages of kind of like background history. Now it looks like we might be kind of getting into a bestiary, maybe. It says the unnatural. So we're talking about the great old ones. Unearthly intelligence and earthly intelligences. Extra-dimensional intelligences. Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, we get another kind of breakdown of history. Different tomes. There we go, the Necronomicon. 90% of them got to be burned. Cool, so we get all the different kind of like mythos tomes here. There's some famous ones. There we go. Neconic manuscripts. I was going to say there's quite a few of these from Call of Cthulhu, as well as Lovecraft stories too. So, hypergeometry. So is hypergeometry how you cast spells? I bet you that's kind of how it works. Yep. So sample rituals. Okay, so these are rituals, not necessarily spells. So lot of these. All right, now are we starting to... No, maybe not. I think these are still rituals here. I was going to say, are we starting to get into like the creatures? There we go, deep ones. Nah, there we go. Now we're starting to get into the different creatures, different elder things, ghouls, the great race. One of my all-time favorite Lovecraft stories, which is, it's more of a novella, is At the Mountains of Madness. I love the reveal in the story that I won't ruin if you haven't read it. So yeah, a lot of these, pretty cool. And some look like they're kind of new. They're not just like this Mito Kangmi. This is, well, they're talking the Whisperer in the Darkness, but I don't know. That doesn't ring a bell. And of course, we got the Migo. Serpent Folk. Shoggoths. Cool. All this stuff. So, going through here. Alright, then now we're talking about the great old ones. It's kind of funny how it's sort of like they're talking about the great old ones, and it's sort of like, oh well, here's a government intel report about them. Yeah, there's a lot of good background in here. So I will take a guess, maybe towards the end of the book, we're going to start getting into, so how do you run this game for the players? Because we had a little bit of that information in the Agent's Handbook, because you could run Delta Green just with the Agent's Handbook, because that was the first one that came out. And it was out for a little bit before the Handler's Guide came out. Nefarious Coel says, Migo controlling their alien greys, which are their constructs in Delta Green. So we've got this schism. Is this an adventure? Maybe. Oh no, it's this. I think it's the schism of Delta Green itself, because I think the current like storyline for Delta Green is there's actually kind of like two separate organizations. One is governmental and one is more like fringe, I think. I might be wrong. So, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. I'm really looking forward to digging into Delta Green and checking this out. Because, for one, my nephew Cameron is really into, like, like modern kind of stuff. And he's, there you go. The Furious Coel is pointing out the difference with the feds and the outlaws. But I was going to say, my nephew Cameron really was digging. I ran a little bit of Call of Cthulhu for him and his friends, and he really likes modern stuff too. So this is right up his alley. I got to be honest. When I would run Call of Cthulhu, I can't remember ever running like a modern Call of Cthulhu adventure. It was always the 20s or 30s. I think I went into the 50s at one point. I did a campaign that was set in the 1950s, but never any modern stuff. Just I don't know. I don't know why. I just kind of dug the whole, kind of going back in time. I'm a big history buff anyway. All right, so just moving right along here. So there we go, the Outlaws. Talking about the Outlaws. Important people who are part of the Outlaws. So this is, it looks like this whole book is mainly just all background stuff. All the history of Delta Green, kind of the history of the mythos, different aspects of Delta Green. The opera, this is probably an adventure? Yep. That's what it looks like, I believe. Well, maybe not. So it's talking about creating a campaign. So here we go. Now we start getting a little bit of a how to run the game for the handler, for the game master. So it's talking about, okay, there you go. Pick a decade. So it's talking about the 30s through, today. So Nefarious says, I'd like to try Cthulhu Modern, but maybe the 80s or 90s to avoid cell phones and such. No mobile phones, it ruins horror. And far less cameras in public. Yeah, that's true. I always joke around. I cracked up Cameron and his friends when I was telling the story about I was running a Call of Cthulhu adventure. This is a long time ago. And Elliot Miller, my best friend, his nephew Paul, who was only like 13 at the time, but he was playing with us. They were in New York and he wanted to book a train. He wanted to get a ticket on a train to Paris. So, you know how well that went. So, anyway. So, Kabuki Kid says, yeah, even on X-Files, at a time when cell phones were a thing, they just would make them lose a signal or something when it was significant to the plot. Yeah, that's true. All right, so, there we go. So, it looks like, yeah, this is an adventure here in this appendix here. Yeah, Operation Fulminate, the Sentinels of Twilight. All right, cool. Then we get into kind of NPCs and animals for this adventure too. Now we get into recommended media once again. There we go, Charles Stross, The Atrocity Archives. I was gonna say, I can't believe that they wouldn't have Charles Stross in there with his stories. Cool. All right, so we got the index. Then we've got some sheets for the handler to utilize. Personal pursuits summary, ritual details. Cool deal. All right, nice, very, very nice. So what do we have? 300 and how many pages here? 390 something, I think we were looking at. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's about oh, there we go. 370 all told in the Handler's Guide. So we got the Handler's Guide, we got the Agent's Handbook, and both of these come in this handy dandy collector's slipcase for the role-playing game. So, of course, I will have a review of both the Agent's Handbook and the Handler's Guide in the very near future. Hey, we had Shane Ivey popping in. Says, in Delta Green, one of the main goals is secrecy, keeping others from being exposed to the horrors. That makes cell phones another source of horror. Well, there you go. That's it's right from the horse's mouth right there. So, cool deal. Anyway, as I mentioned, I will have a review of both those books in the very, very near future. As I pointed out before, you can get the collector's slipcase for $99.99. This also includes the PDFs absolutely free. You can get the PDFs alone from Drive-Thru RPG. As I mentioned before, the Agent's Handbook is on sale with the Lovecraft sale right now for $15.99. Strangely enough, the Handler's Guide is not. That is available for $29.99 from Drive-Thru RPG. All right, so as I mentioned on tomorrow's show, I will be unboxing and taking a first look at Tribes, Dawn of Humanity from Cosmos Games. So Nefarious is saying, Dutch Green players spend their time trying to take NPC mobile phones. Yeah, there you go. That'll be the whole adventure, just gathering up everybody's mobiles. Anywho, as I like to point out, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you check out some of the videos on the Gaming Gang channel, by all means, please subscribe. And don't forget, ring that little bell, because not only does it notify you when I upload standalone videos, it also tells you when the stream goes live within about 5 minutes. And don't forget to visit thegaminggang.com, because there's a lot going on there that's not on the Daily Dope. So, as I like to point out, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. By now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. I will be back tomorrow, as I mentioned, and we're going to be taking a look at Tribes from Cosmos Games. So, for everybody who joined me in chat, thank you very much for popping in and keeping me company tonight. Those of you who were watching live but didn't jump into chat, why not? We don't bite. We're pretty friendly. And of course, I appreciate everybody watching, regardless if you watched live or on Memorex. So, as I mentioned, I'll be back tomorrow. It's Friday, so until then, happy trails.
Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.